Hi, boys and girls. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Today, we are going to read the first two stories in our literature book. And our literature book is called Upstairs Mouse, Downstairs Mole. And it's a really cute story. I want you to follow along with me as I read, and you follow along and look at the pictures in your book. So, the two stories we're going to read today are Clean and Tidy and The Invitations. And we will save the next two for tomorrow. Okay, Clean and Tidy. Mouse and Mole are neighbors. Mouse lives in a house inside an oak tree. Mole lives in a hole under the house of Mouse. Every morning, Mole swept his hole. Sweep, sweep, sweep. Mole liked his house nice and tidy. Every evening, Mouse swept her house. Sweep, sweep, sweep. Mouse kept her house nice and clean. Okay, I'm too far back. I'm coming back up. But when Mouse swept her house, the dirt went below into Mole's hole, and this made Mole angry. He knocked on Mouse's door. Tap, tap, tap. Evening, Mole, said Mouse. Evening, Mouse, said Mole. Did you know that when you sweep, all your dirt goes down into my hole? I sweep my place nice and tidy in the morning, but by evening it needs to be swept all over again. If you sweep in the morning, said Mouse, and then again in the evening, why, you have twice as much work as I do. That does not seem fair. Together they sat down on the stoop. Mouse twirled her tail and Mole rubbed his snout. I have an idea, squeaked Mouse. She told Mole her new plan. They shook paws. Good night, said Mouse to Mole. Good night, said Mole to Mouse. The next morning, when Mole woke up, he did not sweep his hole. At 12 o'clock sharp, he grabbed his broom and knocked on Mouse's door. Tap, tap, tap. Good afternoon, said Mouse to Mole. Well, good afternoon, said Mouse to Mole. Mole to Mouse. I think I just switched those. Let me do that again. Good afternoon, said Mole to Mouse. Good afternoon, said Mouse to Mole. Mouse ran to fetch her broom. Together they swept Mouse's house until it was nice and clean. Why, it only took us half the time it takes me to sweep my house, said Mouse. Next they marched downstairs and swept Mole's hole until it was nice and tidy. Together it had taken less time to sweep both places than it took for each of them to do just one. That was fast, said Mole. Our houses are clean and tidy, thanks to you. Now what? I've been thinking of a garden, said Mouse. Outside, Mouse and Mole circled the tree. Mole rubbed his snout. Where should we put it? Well, how about in the back, said Mouse, twirling her tail. Then we will have a backyard. Good thinking, exclaimed Mole. First, they dug up a patch of grass. Next, they raked the dirt until it was soft. Mole dug a row of holes, and Mouse dropped a seed into each one. Then it was Mouse's turn to dig and Mole's to plant. Back and forth they went until the garden was finished. Whew, said Mole, that was hard work, but only half as hard thanks to you, said Mouse. They decided to take a nap. Mole went down into his hole, and Mouse went inside her house. Both were much too tired to bother with the dirt they tracked into their clean and tidy homes. Okay, and the next chapter or story is called The Invitations. Mouse found an invitation in her mailbox. It was from her neighbor Mole. Dear Mouse, if you are not too busy, please come join me for lunch to celebrate our new garden. Your neighbor downstairs, Mole. Around noon, there came a tap, tap, tap at Mole's door. Glad you could make it, said Mole. Come on in. Please come in. Mouse had picked dandelions for the occasion. For you, she said, until our flowers come up. Mouse looked around the room. My, but you keep a nice tidy hole, she squeaked. Thank you, said Mole. It was a bit damp inside Mole's hole, and Mouse shivered. Mole also kept his place rather dark, as bright lights hurt his eyes. Mouse bumped into the table as she sat down. Mole poured a cup of tea for Mouse and one for himself. I wasn't sure how you liked your worms, said Mole, so I prepared them 2 ways. The ones on the right are lightly fried. The ones on the left have not been cooked. Dig in. Mouse took one of each to be polite. Mouse filled his plate. He was starved. Mole crunched. Mole slurped. Mole filled his plate. He was starved. Mole crunched. Mole slurped. Mouse poked the worms on her plate. The one on the left wiggled and squirmed. Mouse's stomach began to wiggle and squirm. The one on the right looked greenish-gray. Mouse's face turned greenish-gray. The damp air made her sneeze. Achoo! Goodness, Mouse, said Mole, you do not look well. I don't feel so good, moaned Mouse. Please excuse me, Mole, but I think I'd better go upstairs and lie down. She bumped into the door on her way out. That evening, Mole found an invitation in his mailbox. Dear Mole, I am feeling much better. Please join me for dinner at 6 o'clock to continue our garden celebration. Your neighbor, upstairs, Mouse. At 6 o'clock, there came a tap, tap, tap at Mouse's door. Right on time, said Mouse. Please come in. You are looking much better, said Mole. Well, thank you, said Mouse. The evening sun poured through the windows in Mouse's house. Mole covered his eyes. He walked smack into the wall. Mole bumped into the table and he sat down. Mouse poured a cup of tea for Mole and one for herself. I was not sure which cheese you preferred, said Mouse, so I cut up 2 kinds. The one on the left is cheddar and the one on the right is Limburger. Help yourself. To be polite, Mole took a thin slice of each. Mouse loaded her plate. She was famished. Mouse nibbled. Mouse gnawed. Mole's head still ached from walking into the wall. He began to wobble in his seat. The bright light over the table hurt his eyes. The strong odor of Limburger made his stomach flip-flop. Plop! Mole toppled right off the chair. Mercy, Mole, squeaked Mouse. Are you okay? Mole groaned. I feel a bit dizzy. Please excuse me, Mouse, but I think I'd better go downstairs and rest. He bumped into the door on his way out. And the next story is called Kind and Good Neighbors, and we'll read that tomorrow.